Hi everyone, this is Global Government News. Today is October 20th, 2020, and it's almost exactly a year after Event 201 was played out, a simulation of an outbreak of a coronavirus. They said the scenario ended after 18 months, and that the pandemic would continue at some rate until there was an effective vaccine. The whole lockdown that started this March, or last March, here in 2020, in the United States and really around the world, was all based off the premise that we did not want to overload the hospitals. So they had to put out all kinds of scary articles about hospitals being overwhelmed and cases going up. So here we are again. I saw this yesterday, a bunch of videos coming out from the usual suspects, CBS, ABC, all this, Mayo Clinic, about how the hospitals are being overwhelmed. COVID-19 hospitalizations nearly double in Wisconsin, and I saw, like I said, about 3 or 4 more videos. So they're all just ramping it up, and this is to justify another lockdown. And it doesn't really matter whether the hospitals are overwhelmed or not. The plan was to lock everything down. They told us that in the spring that they would do that. They said 18 months, just like in that document that was last October, which was almost like 5 months before the official lockdown started. They said that it would take 18 months to develop a vaccine, and until the lockdowns would end, until we would stop wearing masks. Just recapping what I talked about yesterday, I talked about the vaccines. And this, cases have been going up, but the hospitals are all empty. And this is according to nurses as well. There may be some hot spots, but for the most part, it's just a big lie. And it's all to justify the upcoming lockdown. In the spring, we also heard about a vaccine. That's our only way out of this lockdown, is a vaccine. And it may not be one vaccine, it may be multiple vaccines. And so now the vaccine's around the corner. They're saying it may not actually even work. You may need a couple. We may have to keep wearing masks along with the vaccines. But people don't want to take the vaccines. They're skeptical about it. And that's why you saw in that other video on YouTube that I just showed with the Mayo Clinic talking about the facts on the vaccine. So all of their disinformation agents are out there trying to misinform the public because they're becoming educated about this whole thing. We talked about if the possibility of these vaccines being mandatory, like in Australia. And Australia is one of the worst places as far as this clamp down, this tyrannical type restrictions. Australia is the worst right now, making it mandatory if people don't want to take it. The authority to fine or jail people who refuse coronavirus vaccines. In Virginia, they'll say they'll mandate a vaccine. We have a bunch of, we have a document that came out from different scientists that signed on to it and called the Great Barrington Declaration, which says that we need to achieve herd immunity. And so now all of these same experts are coming out and saying, no, we can't do that. That's deadly. That's irresponsible. That's unethical. That's nonsense, according to Fauci. So they're in a big fact-fixing frenzy right now. And this is from almost a month ago. Coronavirus keeps spreading across the U.S. because there's no mask mandate, doctor says. It's been over 6 months since the pandemic started, and the transmission continues across the country, and that's only because they are testing more people. She says in her opinion, we could save 70,000 lives if we mask everyone up right now. We could shut everyone up right now. Put a big mask over your face. Magic number, there's 6 million confirmed cases, and they're expected to keep growing until there's a vaccine widely available. Here we'll see the conflicting stories that were told. CDC director says that face masks may offer more protection against COVID than a vaccine. And then the experts are going to tell us what they think. I find it kind of interesting that it actually says that face masks are the most important, powerful public health tool we have. And it even says on the box of these face masks that they don't do anything. They're not made to stop the spread of viruses. In fact, they could actually harm your health. I mean, they're unhealthy. I actually thought about that today earlier. I'm like, wearing these things, they are promoted as healthy, but they do the exact opposite. You're not getting oxygen, you're breathing carbon dioxide, there's bacteria building in the mask from the moisture. It's just unhealthy. And he includes in here, just like we were just talking about, how vaccines are not going to protect him if he doesn't get an immune response. Says vaccines aren't like guaranteed. Oh man, he actually says because there is scientific evidence that they work and that they are our best defense, which just isn't true. CDC guidelines say wearing a mask during prolonged exposure to coronavirus won't prevent possible infection. This was from August 24th. Guidelines from the CDC said that those who come in close contact with someone with the coronavirus for more than 15 minutes could spread the virus, regardless of whether either party wears a mask. It says it may help people who are already infected and maybe help them from spreading it. So basically, if you're sick, wear a mask. But if you're not, you take the risk of getting it. I mean, if people who believe that masks do anything, then if they wear the mask, then they should be fine, right? And if somebody doesn't want to wear it and they want to risk getting sick, well, then they're going to get sick. But as long as you have your PPE on, then you should be fine, right? And it's all the same coercive nature of the whole thing. The psychology of it. I see these signs with these just the regular seasonal flu vaccine outside stores telling people to do it for your family, to, do your part. Otherwise you're going to kill grandma. Here's an article about Japanese people. Everyone else is doing it. Social conformity, a top motive for Japanese people to wear masks. It says here, masks have become widely established as a form of etiquette in Japan. That's, like in Asian stuff, they'll wear those masks if they're sick. I think some people wear them just for the air pollution in China. This guy said that building pressure to conform is an effective way for policymakers to prompt people to act. But he says you don't want society to be too constrictive and under surveillance. In some places, in some stores, they actually have people that will hunt down people who are not wearing a mask, even if you're not even wearing it over your nose. And I noticed that these people, they love the power that they're getting in order to enforce these policies. I ran into some cashier in Pennsylvania a few months back, and I said something about what happens if you don't wear it, and she's like, well, they'll find you. And I'm like, they'll find you? And she's like, well, they'll fine you, like as in money, like $200. But I was like, well, how are they going to do that? And she's like, well, basically they'll find you. They'll surveillance people, snitch you out. On a side note, I thought it was also interesting. The government refers to it as a new lifestyle in the coronavirus era, like a reset, the global reset we've heard about recently, from the globalist own like handbook. The new normal, the new lifestyle. So we all have our different versions. Then we have a new CDC study saying that 70% of the people that wore masks contracted COVID. So that was just a video. I found a Jerusalem Post article to try to get some more of the facts here. Face masks and coverings are not 100% effective at preventing the spread. A study conducted in July found over 70% of the case patients who had tested positive for COVID-19 were infected despite making efforts to abide by CDC guidelines at social distancing, all that nonsense mask wearing, including wearing a face mask. Other reasons is possibly it could have been caused by removing face coverings when eating or drinking, or airflow, even if social distancing measures and masks are implemented. And this kind of relates to this. About a week and a half ago, the CDC confirmed COVID-19 is airborne. What the heck does this mean? It goes against what they said about the 6 feet. It says that the coronavirus can be spread through aerosols, which can linger in the air for minutes to hours and travel farther than 6 feet. So 6 feet basically is useless. And you gotta love it, because they say the best way to prevent the spread of COVID-19 is still to wear a mask, even though we just saw that it isn't, or maintain social distancing, which they're just saying doesn't matter, or avoid large indoor gatherings. I think they just throw that in there because that's part of the agenda of isolating people, locking them down in their houses, shutting down on society. Like I mentioned yesterday, covering your face, kind of like how Muslims Males do that to the females as a form of subjugation. You cover your face, you lose your identity, you lose your free speech. And it's I saw an article probably about a month or two ago about how this whole mask wearing thing is kind of an occult ritual, and the article went through the whole thing. It makes sense. Kind of like a form of initiation into this new normal that they keep calling it. And these stimulus checks, the $1,200, whatever it was kind of like a part of that initiation process, paying you off. Basically a gift. So what will it take for mask and face shields to end? According to this vaccine developer, this doctor, people will need to continue wearing masks and social distancing for the next couple of years, even after a COVID-19 vaccine becomes available. They see vaccines as a magic dust. That's because they're being fed that by the media and the pharmaceutical companies. He says, and politicians, but he says it doesn't work that way. He says, however, developing a safe and effective vaccine normally takes years and begins with animal studies. Well, they already have animals. I just covered an article yesterday about the Gates Foundation spreading polio in Africa, just like he did in India. Maybe we will be the human test subjects. I saw videos about that yesterday. Oh yeah, we need test subjects. Come on. COVID-19 vaccines are all being rushed straight into human clinical trials, foregoing lengthy animal trials altogether. Vaccine makers are also being shielded against liability if people are harmed by the experimental vaccines. That's the most important thing. No liability. Will we be wearing masks forever? Everyone's asking that question now. And let's go to the experts. Let's see what they think. It's starting to feel like this bizarre version of normal might be here for a while. Well, that's the new normal. It says, while many pharmaceutical companies continue to work on making a safe vaccine to protect, blah, 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 mask wearing may be here to stay. So they're trying to make it seem like once the vaccine comes, then we don't have to take off our mask. Well, they've already told us that we're going to have to continue to wear them, and the vaccine won't be effective, and that the mask isn't effective, but you're going to keep wearing them. The clear scientific evidence they work, and they are our best defense. Dr. Fauci says this is when we may be able to stop wearing masks. Officials have urged everyone to do their part and always wear one in public. Well, they actually are making people do it by law. And then it goes on here and it says, according to Fauci, the answer to when we may be able to stop wearing masks might be a bit further off than some would like to hear. He says at least another year. A combination of an effective vaccine and adherence to certain public health principles will get us to the point where we want to be by the end of 2021. Remember, it started in March of 2020 to about October, the fall of 2021. That's close to 18 months, I think. They're just following this whole protocol. And mind you, they've been telling people, the media is telling people that this will all be over when a vaccine is available, and it might be 12 to 18 months off. And he noted the emphasis on developing and distributing a vaccine was being misunderstood as a kind of silver bullet solution. I never said just the vaccine. Here's your real answer. He says, I'm talking about the general trend of when we'll start to feel comfortable going back to normal if we get a safe and effective vaccine. Well, they've already told us we're not going back to normal, so you can pretty much assume that they're going to want you to wear a face mask for the rest of your life, which is why you have to resist this. 9 more months. Oxford vaccine head says UK has no hope of normality until July with face masks and social distancing until next summer. UK has no hope of returning to normality until mass immunization is well underway. This was back in April. They told you Americans may need to wear masks for up to 18 months. And now they're having training sessions for how to deal with people to handle fights over masks at retail stores. Because they're getting ready to shut everything back down again. They loosened it up a little bit, and at Walmart and all that allow you to not wear masks, but they're going to start again. In Ohio, a man was tased and arrested for not wearing a mask. In Australia, police were choking a woman for not wearing a mask. Pretty bad video. Shocking moments, a cop stamps on a man for not wearing a mask. France, a grocery store worker was violently arrested for not wearing a mask. Police drug a passenger off the train for refusing to wear a mask. They kicked and stomped a man and arrested him. In Spain, police officer kneels on the neck of a screaming 14-year-old for not wearing a face mask. This is GGN. Thank you.